coating the park bench where Marcus Enrique sat during his lunch break. At 38, he was the youngest CEO in his company's history. Having taken the helm of Henrique Communications Group 4 years ago, after his father's retirement, he wore an impeccably tailored Italian suit with a charcoal gray overcoat and a black cashmere scarf wrapped around his neck. His hair was perfectly styled, his beard trimmed with surgical precision. He was checking his phone, responding to the endless stream of emails that never seemed to stop, when he heard a small voice. "Excuse me, sir." Marcus looked up to find a little boy standing in front of him, maybe 5 or 6 years old. He had messy dark brown hair and wore a faded blue coat that looked slightly too large. In his small hand, he clutched a broken toy car. "Yes?" Marcus said, softening his tone automatically. Something about the child's solemn expression touched him. "Are you sad?" the little boy asked. Marcus blinked, taken aback. "What makes you think I'm sad?" "You have the same look I have sometimes when I miss my mom, like you're carrying something heavy." The boy tilted his head. "Are you lonely?" Marcus felt something catch in his throat. How had this child seen through him so easily? "Sometimes," he admitted. "Are you here with your parents?" "Just with my grandpa. He's over there." The boy pointed to an elderly man on a nearby bench, dozing with the newspaper in his lap. "He gets tired, says he's too old to keep up with me, and I don't have a father." Marcus's heart tightened. "What do you mean?" "My dad. He left when I was a baby. My mom said he wasn't ready to be a father." The boy's voice was small, but carried a hurt no child should know. "And my mom, she works very far away. I live with my grandpa, but he's very old and tired." "I'm sorry about that," Marcus said softly. The boy studied Marcus with serious eyes. Then, in a small voice that nearly broke Marcus's heart, he said, "Sir, do you have children?" "No, I never did." "Why not?" The question was so direct, so innocent, that Marcus couldn't help but be honest. "Because I spent my whole life working. I never had time for family." The boy nodded, as if he understood perfectly. Then, with a courage that clearly cost him dearly, he whispered, "Sir, I don't have a father. Could you stay with me today? Just today. You could be my dad for a day. I promise I'll be good." Marcus felt tears sting his eyes. The vulnerability in that question, the pure, simple longing, hit something deep inside him. "What's your name?" Marcus asked gently. "Miguel. And this is my lightning." He held up the broken car. "He used to be fast, but now one wheel is broken. My grandpa doesn't know how to fix it." "Miguel, Marcus paused, looking at that hopeful little face. "Please, sir," Miguel pleaded. "Just one day. My grandpa is always tired, and I don't have anyone to do dad things with. We could play ball, or you could teach me things that dads teach. Please." Marcus looked at this small child, at the loneliness in his eyes that mirrored Marcus's own, and felt something shift in his chest. He glanced at the elderly man on the bench, clearly exhausted even while sleeping. "Let me talk to your grandfather first, okay? We need to make sure he says it's all right." Miguel's face lit up like a Christmas tree. "Really? You'll ask him?" "I'll ask him." Miguel grabbed Marcus's hand and pulled him toward the bench. When they got close, Marcus gently touched the elderly man's shoulder, who woke with a start. "Sorry to startle you, sir. I'm Marcus Enrique. Your grandson just made a very special request, and I'd like to discuss it properly with you." The man looked at Miguel, then at Marcus, with tired but kind eyes. "I'm Alberto Costa. What kind of request?" He asked if he could spend the day with me, to do father-son things, to have someone be his dad for a day. Marcus's voice was soft. He told me about the family situation. Alberto's eyes filled with tears. "Miguel, my boy, you can't just ask strangers for that." "But he's not a stranger anymore, Grandpa. His name is Marcus, and he's really nice, and he looks lonely like us. And maybe we could all be less lonely together." Alberto looked between his grandson and Marcus, clearly torn between protecting the child and recognizing his need. "Mr. Enrique, I appreciate your kindness, but we couldn't possibly impose like this." "It's not imposing," Miguel asked, and honestly, Marcus paused, surprised by his own honesty. "I think I need this as much as he does." Something in Marcus's voice must have convinced Alberto, because his expression softened. "Can we sit down and talk about this properly?" They sat on the bench together, Miguel between them, while Marcus explained. He told them he was CEO of a communications company, that he'd never married, never had children, had poured everything into his career, that he'd woken up that morning, his 38th birthday, and realized he was completely alone. No close family, no close friends, just work and more work. "I came to this park to think," Marcus said quietly, "to figure out if this is really the life I want." And then Miguel appeared and saw right through me. He's a very, very perceptive boy. "He is," Alberto agreed, looking at his grandson with love. "His mother works overseas, sending money. The father, well, he was never present. Since Miguel was one, it's been me taking care of him. But I'm old, Mr. Enrique. I'm 72 years old. I'm tired. The boy needs attention. I can't give anymore. He needs a younger male figure, someone to teach him things I don't have the energy for anymore." "What if," Marcus said slowly, "we made this a regular thing? Not just one day, but maybe one day a week. I could take Miguel to do activities, give him attention, give you time to rest, and it would give me—" He looked at Miguel, who was watching him with hopeful eyes. "It would give me something I didn't know I was missing." Alberto studied him carefully. "Mr. Enrique, why would you do this? You don't know us." "Because your grandson asked me if I was lonely, and I realized I am. I spent 15 years building a career and forgot to build a life. And because he looks at me like I could be something important to someone. Do you know how rare that is?" Alberto was quiet for a long moment. "Can I think about it? Maybe we could exchange information. You could provide references. We could do this safely and properly." "Of course, that's smart." Marcus pulled out a business card. "My work number, and I'll write my personal cell on the back. Call me if you decide this is something you're comfortable with." No pressure. That night, Alberto called. They talked for over an hour. He asked careful questions about Marcus's background, his intentions, his life. Marcus answered honestly. By the end of the conversation, they'd agreed to try it. One Saturday a month to start. See how it went. The first Saturday, Marcus picked Miguel up at 9 in the morning. He'd barely slept the night before, nervous and excited in equal measure. He'd planned the entire day. Breakfast at a diner, then the science museum, lunch, maybe a toy store. Miguel appeared at the door in his blue coat, clutching the broken lightning, his face glowing with excitement. "You came!" "Of course I came. I promised, didn't I?" They spent the day doing all the things Marcus had planned, and several things he hadn't. Miguel wanted to look at everything, touch everything, ask questions about everything. He held Marcus's hand as they walked, chattered about his dreams and fears and favorite things. At lunch, Miguel said, "Marcus, can I tell you something?" "Always." "My mom used to take me for ice cream before she went to work. Far away, I miss that." Marcus felt tears sting his eyes. "Would you like to get ice cream after lunch?" "Yes, please." They sat in the ice cream shop eating giant sundaes, and Miguel told Marcus about his mother, about how she used to sing lullabies and always knew when Miguel needed a hug, but that now she worked very far away and only came back twice a year. "I'm not trying to replace your father," Marcus said gently, "but I can be a friend, someone who cares. My grandpa says it's okay to love other people too, that my mom would want me to have people who care about me. Do you care about me, Marcus?" "Yes," Marcus said, realizing it was true. "I do." One Saturday a month became two. Then every weekend. Marcus found himself rearranging his schedule, delegating more at work, leaving the office earlier. Things he'd never done before, things that would have been unthinkable 6 months ago. He taught Miguel how to ride a bike. They fixed lightning together. They went to the zoo, the aquarium, and museums. Marcus bought Miguel books, clothes, and toys, then stopped himself, worried he was overstepping. But Alberto assured him it was fine. "You're giving him something I can't," Alberto said one evening when picking Miguel up. "You're giving him young male attention and guidance. Honestly, you're giving me something too. Time to breathe. Time to be a better grandfather because I'm not so overwhelmed." "He's giving me more than I'm giving him," Marcus admitted. "I was so lonely, Alberto. I didn't realize how much until Miguel asked if I could stay with him for a day." 6 months into their arrangement, Miguel asked Marcus to come to Father's Day at his school. "I know you're not my real dad," Miguel said carefully, "but you're the closest thing I have. Would you come, please?" Marcus attended the event, sitting with Miguel at a small table, participating in activities. He met Miguel's teacher, who assumed Marcus was the boy's father, and he didn't correct the assumption. He watched Miguel introduce him to friends with such pride. "This is Marcus. He's my special person." After the event, as they walked to the car, Miguel slipped his hand into Marcus's. "Thank you for coming. I was the only kid who didn't know if they'd have someone there. But you came. I'll always come when you need me, champ. Always." That night, Alberto invited Marcus to stay for dinner. It had become a regular thing. After bringing Miguel back, Marcus would stay. They'd eat together, talk about their weeks, about Miguel, about life. "Can I ask you something?" Alberto said after Miguel went to bed. "Of course. When Miguel first asked you to spend a day with him, why did you really say yes?" Marcus was quiet for a moment. "Because I'd spent my entire birthday alone. Because I realized I'd built this impressive career, but I had no one to share it with. Because I was sitting on a bench, wondering if this was all there was to life. And then this little boy appeared and saw right through all my armor and asked me if I was lonely. And I couldn't lie to him." Marcus's voice grew soft. "He saved me, Alberto. As much as I like to think I'm helping him, he saved me from a life of accomplishment without meaning." Alberto reached across the table and took his hand. "You've saved us too." Both of us. Miguel is happier than he's been since his mother left, and He paused. I'm seeing something I didn't expect. I'm seeing you become the father he always needed, and it would be an honor if you'd consider becoming an official part of this family. Marcus felt tears slip down his cheeks. I would love that. I love you both. This family you've let me be part of, I love it more than anything I've ever built or achieved. A year later, Marcus began the adoption process. Alberto was enthusiastically supportive. Miguel's mother, when contacted, agreed it would be best for her son. On the day the adoption was finalized, Miguel held the official document with trembling hands. Does this mean you're my real dad now? It means I always was, Marcus said, kneeling down. Since the day you asked me if I'd stay with you. You chose me first, Miguel. I'm just returning the favor. Miguel threw himself into Marcus's arms, and they stayed like that for a long time, father and son finally official, but already having been a family for a long time. 3 years later, Marcus sat on the same park bench where he'd first met Miguel. His 9-year-old son was beside him, reading a book about astronomy. Alberto, now 75, was on a nearby bench, watching the ducks on the lake. What are you thinking about, Dad? Miguel asked, looking up. About the day we met, about how you asked me if I was lonely. Were you? Very. I didn't realize how much until you asked. Are you still lonely? Marcus looked at his son, then at Alberto, waving at them from afar. Thought about his life now, still CEO, still successful, but now balanced with soccer games and bedtime stories and family dinners. No, champ. I'm not lonely anymore, thanks to you. I'm not lonely either. Miguel leaned against Marcus's shoulder. You know what? What? I think sometimes angels come as little boys with broken cars, and sometimes they come as sad men on park benches, and sometimes they find each other exactly when they're supposed to. Marcus kissed the top of Miguel's head. I think you're absolutely right. Later, Marcus would think about how one question from a child had changed his entire life. How could you stay with me today? Had turned into forever. How the loneliest moment of his life had been the beginning of the greatest gift he'd ever received. He'd been sitting on that bench, successful and accomplished and completely empty, wondering if this was all there was. And a little boy with a broken toy car had appeared and offered something more precious than any achievement. A place to belong, a family, love. Marcus had spent years building an empire, but Miguel had taught him that the most important thing you can build is connection, family, home. The career was still there. Marcus still ran his company, still made important decisions, still achieved impressive things. But now it was balanced with soccer games and bedtime stories and family dinners, with a son who had chosen him and a father-in-law who had become like a father. All because a little boy had seen through his armor and asked a simple question. Could you stay with me today? One day had become forever, and Marcus Henrique, who'd spent his life building success, had finally learned what it meant to build something that truly mattered. A family, a home, a life filled not with achievements, but with love. All because he said yes to a lonely little boy in a park. And that little boy saved him right back.